99. That's Gateway Building Systems at 1-800-747-4499.
They do. Bart Jensen plunges in. Touchdown, Bison.
Following their stunning first loss of the season,
way too many turnovers, and we didn't come up with any.
The NDSU Bison try to regroup Saturday when they play the South Dakota Coyotes in Sioux Falls. Voice of the Bison, Scott Miller here. The Herd needs a bounce-back win to stay near the top of the conference standings. Our Bison Tailgate Show starts at 4:30, followed by the kickoff shortly after 6, right here in the Mighty 790 KFGO.
The Mighty 790 KFGO, Fargo Moorhead.
Catch the winning spirit at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, located on the beautiful shores of Devil's Lake. At Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, you'll find top-name entertainment on stage each and every month. The 1,000-seat auditorium provides you with an intimate setting for your favorite entertainers, and there's not a bad seat in the house. Get up close and personal with the stars at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort's auditorium. To find out which performers are taking the stage this month, call 1-800-WIN-YOU-BET or visit SpiritLakeCasino.com.
Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there. Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there.
Are you satisfied with your harvest results? Row Crop Solutions has hybrids and varieties that performed excellent under the dry conditions this growing season. Our test plot results are in, and so are the new products from Channel, Wensman, Garston K, and Hilleshaw. Matching the right seed to your land is important. Let Row Crop Solutions help you do that in 2013 to maximize your yield potential. Give Vic or Claire a call at Row Crop Solutions or visit rowcropsolutions.com.
Everyone loves a Lundstrom smile. Lundstrom Family Dentistry.
If you have a broken or chipped tooth, a natural-looking crown will help restore the look, strength, and health of your smile. Our one-appointment Sarah Crowns will get you on your way fast. No extra shots, no extra drilling, and no extra visits. Dr. Lundstrom is now accepting new patients. To book your Sarah Crown appointment, call 235-3803 or online at fargodentist.net.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. Babies to the elderly.
If you notice your child melting down and not able to regroup, having difficulty calming for more than 15 minutes, this could mean that your child needs help.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. They're there when you need them. Therapy for all ages. Beyond Boundaries Therapy in Fargo. Online at beyondboundaries.us.
When life gives you boundaries, go beyond. Beyond Boundaries Therapy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this debate between congressional candidates in North Dakota on KFGO, on KFYR, and KCJB. My name is Charlie Johnson. I'll be the moderator of this hour-long debate. We are joined in the studio by Jim Shaw of Fox News in Fargo. He'll be taking part in the questioning, as will Paul Juergens, news director here at KFGO Radio in Fargo, and Don Haney, also a longtime news voice and newsman here at KFGO in the Red River Valley. We would like to welcome all of you across the state who are listening to this debate. We have Pam Gullison and Kevin Cramer in studio. They have graciously agreed to meet again. You guys have been meeting a lot.
We have. We've had a lot of debates.
Yeah, we know each other well.
Yeah, maybe you could do each other's lines. Maybe we'll have a swap at one point when we have one of the questions. Just a quick note of introduction. Most people know who you are, but Pam Gullison served 16 years in the North Dakota House of Representatives. At one point, she was the Assistant Democratic House Minority Leader. That was in the 1990s. Subsequently, she worked for 9 years as U.S. Senator Byron Dorgan's State Director, Chief of Staff. So welcome, Pam Gullison. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Kevin Cramer is currently a public service commissioner. He's been in that spot since 2003, most recently winning re-election 2 years ago, 2010. Prior to that, he was state tourism director from 93 through 97, and he was also state economic development director from 1997 through 2000. Welcome, Kevin. We appreciate you being here, too.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Well, we have a few loose ground rules. We're going to take turns asking questions, and we'll take turns answering who gets to answer first. We didn't flip a coin, so I'll just make a last-minute decision when we come to it in this case. Who gets to go first? We will allow 2 minutes for your first answer. I'll be timing that. If you want to engage in a little back and forth after on each question, we'll give you a chance to come back. I don't have a strict time limit on that, but if I think you're repeating yourself, I'll step in and kindly say you're repeating yourself. Okay. So Mr. Shaw from Fox News drew the first question. Jim, we're going to let you ask the first question, and I think we'll start with Ms. Gullison as the first answerer. So, Jim, have at it.
Thank you, Charlie. I want to ask about the $1 trillion budget deficit and how you both would balance the budget. Even if the economy grows, to balance the budget, there will have to be deep spending cuts or tax increases or changes in tax deductions or a combination thereof. I would like to know specifically where you both would like to cut spending or raise taxes to balance the budget.
Okay. Pam?
All right. Thank you, Jim. Right now, our country is borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar that we have from countries that we compete with directly. We are spending $3 for every dollar, or $2 that we take in. So the reality is, of course, we cannot stay on this path. It is contributing to the deficit, and we've got to respond to it. Here's what I look at. I say we need to look at every single agency's budget. We need to ask them to come forward with a 5% across-the-board cut. They need to identify what those cuts would be. We just saw, I think, a pretty good example with the Farm Bill that was brought forward on the Senate side. That has a 9% cut. That was identified with the agencies, with the Senate, Democrats, Republicans. That's what we need to be doing with each of these agencies. It's going to be up to them to be able to help identify these, but the obligation will be that everybody has to be part of contributing to this solution long term. We can't continue with these deficits as we see them.
Let me just ask a follow-up. What about tax increases? Are you open to the idea of raising taxes on some or all taxpayers?
At the end of the year, the Bush tax cuts expire. I support extending the tax cuts for everyone up to that $250,000. But beyond that, then the tax cuts would expire for that. That would contribute, obviously, to additional revenue towards this solution.
Okay, Mr. Cramer.
Well, several things that come to mind. First of all, yes, we have a $16 trillion debt and growing at the rate that you talked about, the $1 trillion per year at the current rate. That is unsustainable. In fact, that $16 trillion debt exceeds the productivity of our nation's economy, which is so unsustainable as to be Greece if we weren't able to print our own money. It has to be dealt with. What I propose is the first thing we should do is roll the budget back to 2008 levels. In 2008, I picked 2008 because that's pre-stimulus, pre-Obamacare, pre-TARP, pre-bailouts. Because now the reason the Democrat-controlled United States Senate won't pass a budget is because they get to keep building on top of this false floor that was created by all this super spending. We have to go back to 2008, make that the baseline, then ask every agency to come in with 5% cuts, and not just across the board, however. And that is where I differ from my opponent, because in the Schaefer administration, I submitted 4 budgets. Every budget was less than the previous budget. And our challenge, the challenge to us from Governor Schaefer was, don't cut across the board, but rather prioritize your programs, pick the priorities, and then cut the bottom priority rather than just sort of spreading the pain. Let's get rid of outdated, inefficient programs, because we need an efficient government. By doing that, I do think there's a lot of room for growth on the other side, and that growth, I think, comes from growing the economy, not from growing the rate on taxpayers. Let's grow the economy. I think a measure like that would carry with it a tremendous signal into the marketplace that we're serious about this, because the expiration of the expiration of the tax rates comes with it the loss of thousands more jobs. We also have a very fragile economy in this country, and we can't turn around the budget or the economy unless we get serious.
Let me just ask a follow-up and then move on to the other questioners. Tax rates for the very rich are at their lowest levels in more than 60 years. Are you open to the idea of raising taxes on the rich as part of the solution to cut the deficit?
What I'm open to is getting rid of the loopholes and the deductions for the very rich and everybody else as well, and having a flatter tax code that sends clear signals in the marketplace that allows everybody to pay their fair share. And certainly that will require wealthier people to pay more. But let's not forget that Obamacare itself, as an example, raises taxes on the, quote, very rich and a whole bunch of other places, like 18 other places, and it's going to kill jobs. So we have to be careful not to kill jobs. Jim, if the very rich paid 100% taxes, we could run the government for 9 months. That wouldn't do much for the government or for the economy.
Okay. Pam, do you want a shot at Jim's follow-up?
I do. Everything that we've seen over the last number of years is that we see a widening gap. The wealthy are getting more wealthy. Even during these years of recession, they have done incredibly well, while the poor and the middle class have gone backwards. So I support ending the Bush tax cuts for the very, very wealthy, and I don't support the Paul Ryan budget, which my opponent does, which would give an additional $150,000 in tax cuts to the very, very wealthy. That's the wrong direction. That's not how we're going to grow this economy. We really have to start in the middle and grow it out.
Okay, let's move on to our second questioner, Paul Juergens, KFGO Radio. Paul?
To Commissioner Cramer first off, and then if candidate Gullison would like to respond. Smith Motors, Rydell Chevrolet, Murphy Motors, Passett Motors, all General Motors dealerships in this state. The auto bailout, the president's been criticized. Hundreds of thousands, if not jobs in North Dakota would have likely been lost had the GM dealers disappeared. I've not heard you address this issue, Commissioner Cramer, and what are your thoughts? Was that the right move?
Well, first of all, I doubt hundreds of thousands of jobs in North Dakota.
Hundreds, if not thousands.
And secondly, I don't know that the GM bailout necessarily saved GM dealerships in North Dakota. I don't know the facts surrounding that, but I do know these facts, that there were also other firms that literally lost their licenses, lost their franchises here in North Dakota that did cost dozens, if not hundreds of jobs, and certainly lots of revenue. I don't think that picking winners and losers is the job of the government. I think that the free market ought to work. I would have preferred some sort of a managed allowing them to fail, if you will, rather than bailing them out, but having more of a managed Chapter 11 or something like that still would have allowed the GM to continue, but under, I think, more fair rules than simply a taxpayer-funded bailout, where the federal government still is a large shareholder in an industry. And as you've probably noticed, Paul, it's been very good for Ford and others as well. Now, I happen to drive a General Motors vehicle, and I'm happy to drive it, but I think it could have been handled much, much better. And that doesn't mean that there would necessarily have been a loss of hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs in North Dakota.
Ms. Gullison, your thoughts on the...
Well, I mean, as hard as it is, and I don't think anybody likes the notion that we have to bail out anybody, the banks or auto dealers or anybody else. But the reality is that tough decisions were made. We now have a domestic auto industry in this country again. These are real jobs, not only here for North Dakota, but for Michigan and Ohio, and critically important jobs. So those are some of the tough decisions. But listen, we had to crawl out of a deep, deep ditch. This country was facing some of the darkest times since the last Depression, by far. And so you make the tough decisions, and it has worked out. Obviously, we have auto dealerships here in North Dakota who are doing extremely well. Our economy here has helped support it. But nationwide, it's made a real difference in the economy.
Okay. I think we can move on. I think everybody covered that one okay. Don Haney, what would your question be? And who would you, if you don't have a specific person, we'll start with Pam, but if you feel a need to direct
okay,
it,
we'll start with Ms. Gullison. An important issue in this election is whether defense budget cuts are going to go too far. We're facing, as you folks have already talked about, the huge deficits. President Obama wants to rein in the growth of defense spending coming off a couple of, a decade of foreign wars. He says that the things he's proposing won't hurt American security. Mitt Romney has a lot different take on that. He says defense budgets need to grow. We've heard him say that perhaps by tens of billions of dollars a year to the Pentagon's core budget. The question is, where do you come down on that? Obviously, this is national security, but also would have big impacts on North Dakota. We're a military state, as you well know, major bases, Air Force bases, Minot, Grand Forks, a lot of people sitting on edge. There's talk. We're talking to some people. They say politicians don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole prior to the election, but there's talk that if Obama is elected, there will be a series of BRAC cuts that will be discussed after the election. We're facing more rounds of BRAC. We know that the bases in North Dakota barely survived those in the past. The impacts to the state would be enormous, loss of jobs, economy, besides the national defense security. And I guess, Pam, we'll put that question to you. Where do you come down on defense budget?
Well, Admiral Mike Mullen, who was the former chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, former chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he made a comment, I think it was a couple of years ago, that said that the U.S. economy is the number one threat to our national security. This coming, of course, from one of our defense leaders, and reminding everybody we have to get this country back on track. We have to have a strong and stable national economy in order to have the strong international security that we've always had. And so how does that fit in? The cuts that the Department of Defense have come forward with on their own, identified, recognizing that we are seeing a change in our military. We're exiting. We've exited one major war. We are exiting the second. We have different kinds of threats. We know that. We have a much higher need for intelligence and the kind of highly technical kind of national security as well. So it is shifting. We're going to be changing where we spend our dollars to. We have to adjust to that. We have to keep the national security of our country first and foremost, always at the front side of this. I was part of the BRAC round when I worked with Senator Dorgan. Our bases faced all of that. We have faced some new missions as a result, which I think has positioned us very, very well long term. We have a UAS mission, which is one of the areas that we will continue to see expanded as part of our national defense, I believe. And so in that case, I feel like in the state of North Dakota is fairly well positioned under any potential BRAC cuts.
Okay, Mr. Cramer.
Well, first of all, national security is the highest priority of the federal government, thus the highest priority of the federal deficit and federal spending as well. Having said that, Don, I think that the defense spending as well as everything else has to be on the table for possible cuts, but not just random cuts, obviously. Strategic cuts. I think we do have to realize that we have a different world. And I also think there's a distinction between the recent wars and foreign wars that we're pulling out of and the Pentagon, if you will, the Pentagon budget. We need to make sure that's intact. But the Pentagon and national defense it should be for strategic purposes, not for economic purposes. In other words, as much as we love our air bases, the reason that they're secure is because they're strategically placed, not because they're a jobs program. We have nothing to be ashamed of with regard to our contribution in North Dakota to America's national defense. I am concerned too about the growing burden of our national defense on National Guard. The National Guard in North Dakota, we have every reason to be proud of the work that they do, but at the same time, the National Guard, in my view, has been abused in terms of these recent wars, especially. There's been an undue burden on them, and we shouldn't be placing our state guard units in so much harm's way, if you will, by not funding appropriately our regulars. So I think it all comes down in national defense, like it does with a lot of things, and people should expect a more efficient and effective government. So could there be efficiencies without compromising the integrity of the call on the military to protect us? I certainly would hope so, and I would certainly want to challenge that for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to take a break right now for our stations across the state of North Dakota. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
That's the winning spirit at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, located on the beautiful shores of Devil's Lake. At Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, you'll find top-name entertainment on stage each and every month. The 1,000-seat auditorium provides you with an intimate setting for your favorite entertainers, and there's not a bad seat in the house. Get up close and personal with the stars at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort's auditorium. To find out which performers are taking the stage this month, call 1-800-WIN-YOU-BET or visit SpiritLakeCasino.com.
Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there.
That's right. Through Verizon and your local provider, which is Cellular Communications, you can get the Share Everything plan. Now, what does that mean? For $10 a month, you can get the Verizon tablet. Let me give you an example of what you can do. You can browse the internet, video gaming, synchronize your email and calendar, play games, access your Facebook, Twitter accounts, rent, purchase, or watch your own movies. Check the weather, your stocks. You know what I'm getting at. You can do anything with this tablet that you want to do on the internet, and you get that for $10 a month. People are loving them. They're digging them. You know what? You're going to find them at Cellular Communications, your local Verizon Wireless premium retailer. Now, where do you find them? You find them in Fargo, Moorhead, Grand Forks, Jamestown, Bismarck. They're in Detroit Lakes, Dickinson, Minot, Fergus Falls, Alexandria, and Brainerd. In other words, they're exactly where you are, or you've got access to them. But start on the web. Go to www.cellcominc.com. That's cellcominc.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to this statewide radio debate between the candidates for Congress, U.S. Congress. From North Dakota, we have Kevin Cramer and Pam Gullison in studio. My name is Charlie Johnson. I'm your moderator. In real life, I'm the president of the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Fargo-Moorhead, and I'm happy that KFGO and the other stations invited me to do this. Once again, we're on KFGO in Fargo, KFYR in Bismarck, KCJB in Minot. We're going to continue our questioning now. I believe we're back to Mr. Jim Shaw from Fox News. Jim?
Thank you, Charlie. This is directed to both of you. From all accounts, Iran is on the path to constructing nuclear weapons. If sanctions don't stop them, and so far they haven't, do you favor a U.S. military strike against Iran as a last resort?
We're going to start this time. We'll start with Mr. Cramer.
Well, first of all, for sure, it's a last resort, Jim, an absolute last resort. And I feel quite strongly about the fact that any act of war that we would initiate requires a vote of Congress. I know several presidents in recent years, and including some Republicans and some Democrats, have determined that the War Powers Act, for example, is not constitutional, and therefore we've had again both Republican and Democrat presidents strike without the consent of Congress. In fact, they've struck and remained in war without the consent of Congress, and whether the War Powers Act is constitutional or not, it's certainly a good idea to seek Congress's approval. Sitting here in this studio today, it's a tough question to answer just with the scenario you've given. Obviously, there would have to be lots of information, obviously lots of intelligence that we may or may not know about. But certainly as a final, very last resort, I would be open to it. However, we have to understand that Iran is so strategically important in the Middle East, and our friends Israel have to be consulted at all steps, and frankly, in many respects, we have to, I think, yield to their intelligence and their safety. They are our best friends in the region. They are the only true democracy in the region. We have a legacy relationship with them, as well as a very important economic and strategic relationship with them. So Israel is critically important, and the idea over all these years that we're somehow going to play footsie with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and somehow he's going to like us so well as to not develop nuclear weapons. Hopefully, this administration has learned its lesson and come to the conclusion that he's not our friend.
Okay, Ms. Gullison.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Iran is on the way. They are developing the materials. We know of that, establishing that. And so the threat of a nuclear weapon in Iran is, I think, very real. The sanctions that have been imposed by our allies onto Iran clearly are working. You hear each and every week now more and more that they're being threatened by just the downfall of their economy because of it. So we need to stay on that path before we move to anything militarily. But absolutely, do we need to make sure that we have everything militarily in place to be able to strike if we need to, make decisions about how we would respond? We can't take anything off the table. We need to be continuously talking and working with our friends in Israel. And there had been some strife, I think, a few weeks ago with Netanyahu and the president particularly. But it's very clear they need to be on the same page on this, working alongside our ally there, and leave every option on the table. The reality is, I think nobody wants to see another ground war in the Middle East. We're fatigued. Our forces, we have asked so much of our men and women in combat. And so the by far the priority is to find other avenues to resolve this.
And I might just say, Jim, history is an important teacher here. Ronald Reagan never fired a shot, but he brought down the Soviet Union because they knew it was possible. And so I think a similar strategy can be implemented here, and hopefully we avoid anything. But we also have to be prepared to support the freedom-loving people in Iran, and that's something we haven't been very good at in recent years. And so it's a multitask force, but certainly the threat has to be there for Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the people of Iran to know we're serious.
You're speaking specifically of the Soviet Union when he said he didn't fire a shot.
That's right.
Okay, because there were some shots fired. Okay. Anything else from you, Pam? Okay. All right. By the way, I'd like to thank both candidates. You're keeping your answers fairly brief, not running out of time, so this gives us more chance to have more questions from people like Paul Juergens. Paul?
A quick programming note. We intend to rebroadcast this debate tomorrow evening. The exact time is yet to be determined. And we have also asked for authorization from Prairie Public Broadcasting to rebroadcast their U.S. Senate debate tomorrow night as well. I'd like to talk about energy and not oil, wind energy, first off. The expiration of the federal energy tax credits looming. LM Wind Power from Grand Forks, manufacturer of blades, leaving. We come to learn that they are shifting the jobs to Brazil. DMI in West Fargo has been sold. Ottertail Power Corporation, the owner, has sold that firm. I was told by a reliable source that Ottertail Corporation had no orders for wind turbines in this country next year. First of all, candidate Gullison, I believe you support the extension of the tax credits, and then I would like to have Commissioner Cramer answer that too. He's been a champion of wind power, and I want his position on the tax credits.
I do. I support the extension of the production tax credits here on wind. I think it's so important that we give that sector of our energy industry long-term stability, long-term support. We've built a tremendous foundation here in North Dakota and really across the country, and we need to continue to support them. It's a big part of our overall domestic energy strategy. I don't know why we would want to stranglehold one area of energy that has, as I said, gotten off the ground, is doing so well. It's real jobs right here in Fargo, right here in Grand Forks. And you see the production of that energy from the towers across the prairies here in North Dakota. I think we feel really good about that. We give long-term certainty to the other sectors of energy. We give it to oil. We've supported them for decades and decades and decades without interruption. I think we need to do more for the wind industry here, allow them more certainty. That's why their contracts have fallen off. They're not going to be able to sell that energy without that production tax credit. So it's critically important to not only jobs, but the bigger picture for our country. I think it's just an important part of our overall energy strategy.
Mr. Cramer, what is your position on the credits?
Well, I don't support an extension of the production tax credit. This is an area, of course, of expertise of mine. You're right. I have overseen the siting of some 1,500 megawatts of nameplate capacity in our state, and I've overseen the economic regulation of our own utilities that have utilized it. And we've seen what's happened with an overproduction. While certainly it creates some jobs for people who are building these things, these wind turbines and towers and all the things that go with it, We've also overproduced to the point where there's so much electricity out there that they actually sell wind power. They pay people to take wind power. And the reason that they pay a utility to buy wind power, they can pay them a penny so they can collect the 2.2 cents from the taxpayer. So we've literally overproduced to the point where we now have to ramp down big generators that are also dot the prairies of North Dakota that burn lignite coal. That's very hard on those. It's very inefficient. And people right here in Fargo-Moorhead area, Cass County Electric customers, Nodak Electric customers have seen their rates go very high because of large investments in wind. Now, we also have a $16 trillion debt. Remember that question early on? And huge deficits. We can't, I don't think we have to sacrifice somewhere, Paul. I think that we as North Dakotans have a responsibility to sacrifice, just like people everywhere do, for the good of our nation and the long-term good of children yet born.
300-400 jobs leaving the state, though, or potentially if DMI does not stay in wind production.
Given that scenario, why don't we double the wind production and create 800 more jobs? Why don't we, for example, have a 100% tax on radio newsmen, and we could redistribute that and create all kinds of jobs for other people? I'm talking about fundamental economics. We have a $16 trillion debt, and that's unsustainable. And it would be a very shallow victory to maintain 300 jobs here, only to have the entire nation go bankrupt and lose thousands of jobs. I mean, that's the reality. I know it's not very populist of me, but it's the truth.
Okay, we need to take a break. Pam, you want to add anything else?
Well,
just for a few seconds on that?
Listen, the demand for energy from this country is growing continuously. Our ability to produce more electricity and export it out to those areas that have demands, I think is important. So I absolutely think this is an area we need to continue.
Actually, the demand's down for electricity, which is why you pay people to take it. The demand has gone down.
Not nationwide.
Actually, it has.
Okay, well, we'll look that up on our iPhones. We need to take a break. We're going to have a 4-minute break. We'll be back here on KFGO, KFOR, and KCJB with the candidates for Congress right after this.
Catch the winning spirit at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, located on the beautiful shores of Devil's Lake. At Spirit Lake Casino and Resort, you'll find top-name entertainment on stage each and every month. The 1,000-seat auditorium provides you with an intimate setting for your favorite entertainers, and there's not a bad seat in the house. Get up close and personal with the stars at Spirit Lake Casino and Resort's auditorium. To find out which performers are taking the stage this month, call 1-800-WIN-YOU-BET or visit SpiritLakeCasino.com.
Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there. Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there.
Massage Envy Spa. For me, it's healthy, it's affordable. I mean, he always wants
pain relief.
Right. And I want a healthier complexion. And now we can get a customized massage or a healthy skin facial.
At a really good price.
At a great price. And nothing feels better than that.
Customized massages and healthy skin facials, all at the perfect price. Start a healthy routine today with Massage Envy Spa.
In Fargo on 13th Avenue South. Introductory facial, $49. Massage, $39.
Are you satisfied with your harvest results? Row Crop Solutions has hybrids and varieties that performed excellent under the dry conditions this growing season. Our test plot results are in, and so are the new products from Channel, Wensman, Garston K, and Hilleshop. Matching the right seed to your land is important. Let Row Crop Solutions help you do that in 2013 to maximize your yield potential. Give Vic or Claire a call at Row Crop Solutions or visit rowcropsolutions.com.
If you're in the market for grain bins and dryers, call Gateway Building Systems. Gateway is America's #1 Brock grain bin and dryer dealer, and for good reason. Brock features a tri-core floor design that offers 3 times more support and superior load-bearing capacity. Made in America with easy cleaning capability and roof loads up to 50,000 pounds. Find out more about Brock grain bins and dryers. Call Gateway Building Systems at 1-800-747-4499. That's 1-800-747-4499.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. Babies to the elderly.
If you notice that your child isn't talking as well as his or her peers, this could mean that your child needs help. There may be many reasons why your child is having difficulty speaking.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. They're there when you need them. Therapy for all ages. Beyond Boundaries Therapy in Fargo. Online at beyondboundaries.us.
When life gives you boundaries, go beyond. Beyond Boundaries Therapy.
I guess you know why I'm here. Winter tires, right? Have you heard of Nokian tires? My buddy at work has a set of Hakkapelitas. He says they're incredible. Saved his butt all last winter. Ah, he's right. Nokian tires are recognized as the world's best winter tire. I recommend the new Hakkapelita Rs. Well, the Rs feature a multi-tread design for stability and pump sipes to wipe surfaces dry for maximum road contact. Nokian earth-friendly tires, where safety begins.
Dave's Tire, located in Fargo and West Fargo, or online at davestire.net.
Welcome back to our statewide debate here on KFGO, KFYR, and KCJB across the state of North Dakota. I'm Charlie Johnson, moderating today in studio, asking questions. Jim Shaw from Fox News in Fargo, and Paul Juergens and Don Haney from KFGO in Fargo. And, of course, we're joined by the two candidates, Democrat Pam Gullison and Republican Kevin Cramer. We are ready to go now to Don Haney for the next question. Don?
Charlie, I'll direct this first off to Commissioner Cramer. Much has been said about campaign contributions, I guess, no matter what political race you're in. But in this one, we've heard a lot about your accepting some significant contributions from interests you regulate. And we know there's been a whole bunch of other things that have entered into the picture here. But how do you respond to that in respect to the fact that you as a public service commissioner are regulating people, but at the same time, you're taking political contributions from them?
A couple of things. First of all, democracy is built on the whole idea that you get to participate in the elections of people that regulate you. That is what America is all about. It's no different than you as a taxpayer giving to the tax commissioner candidate of your choice. The tax commissioner regulates you. It's no different than farmers giving to the ag commissioner of their candidate of their choice. They regulate agriculture, and the governor and the ag commissioner and the attorney general regulate the oil and gas industry and distribute money for coal companies for research. That is the way America is built. And that is the law, is allowable under the law. And I'd go so far as to say it's encouraged. That is what freedom is all about, Don. I don't have a, no, I do. I have a, no, I not only do I not have a problem with it, I would defend it and do defend it.
Ms. Gullison?
Well, obviously this came up because this is new under this commissioner. It's not happened any other commissioners before him. We followed in Hagan and so on. They just didn't cross that line. They made it very clear that they understand that they stand as judge in these really important decisions that come before the Public Service Commission, which is representing the people of North Dakota in these cases. And so, it's obviously been brought to light because of this lawsuit. My question has been, why would we want to put the potential regulation of our coal industry at jeopardy when the solution is pretty simple? Just give the money back, and then all of that goes away. Just the question of it and the judgment questions of it.
There is no judgment question about it, Don. There's a very extreme group that had filed a complaint with the United States Department of the Interior, and their ethics officer said this is a non-issue. The result was that very extreme group that supports my opponent then filed a federal lawsuit not against me or the Public Service Commission, but against the Secretary of the Interior in hopes of getting a settlement agreement between friends. They've done it all over the country. We had to intervene in a similar suit in California to prevent the same thing from happening. That would create precedent because it creates law. So this notion that some of the regulations are in jeopardy is a silly notion. It's not true. It won't happen. And in fact, the fact that we intervened prevents them from coming to that settlement agreement.
It would seem, though, just on the face of it, to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest, that one would not accept donations. I know you say it's not against the law. There's no regulations that prohibit this, but the specter has been raised that it is a conflict because
it's been raised by political opponents, Don. And the reality is that if we're going to apply that standard, how about, I'll tell you what, I'll give my energy donations back if Ms. Gullison wants to give her $217,000 from labor unions back. See, the idea, by the way, this has been done for years. The idea that this hasn't been done before because you can find a couple of former commissioners who didn't accept money that they weren't offered is not that noble. My opponent in the last race has tried to raise this issue in his own race and trying to be noble because he won't accept contributions from people who wouldn't give him any when he's asked for them. That's not the standard. The standard ought to be this. North Dakota has the lowest electricity rates in the country. North Dakota has the lowest natural gas rates in the country. North Dakota has the cleanest air in the country. North Dakota has the economic envy of the world, all under the same people that are being accused of abusing their power by accepting contributions from these, quote, evil people.
Okay, we got to give Pam another shot at this, and then we need to move on. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the group that brought the lawsuit, I have no connections with. They don't support me. I have a pretty strong record, but the environmentalists generally aren't on my side. I have a very strong record on energy. Listen, this question has come up just because, again, of the ethics question of it. No other public service commissioner has chosen to accept these contributions. The federal law states very clearly that a regulator shall not accept any contributions from interests that they regulate. So from all of that aspect, it's just very clear. And there's been out-of-state lawyers now hired at a rate of $400 an hour to help defend in this action. I think it's unnecessary. I think it all could go away. You simply give the money back and it all goes away.
Well, wouldn't you love me to give all my money back to my supporters so you could keep all that free labor union money and Nancy Pelosi money to run against? By the way, several commissioners...
Is this the only place you're getting money?
Well, you would think, wouldn't you?
I'm asking. Is it the only place you're getting money?
By the way, most of the people giving me money are the ratepayers that we also regulate. By the way, when you do rate regulation, it's for everybody.
Okay, we need to move on. We need to go on here. Let's go to Jim Shaw for the next question, please. Jim.
Thank you. Mr. Cramer, you favor repeal of the president's health care plan, which critics call Obamacare. But if you repeal what you call Obamacare, aren't you getting rid of popular provisions such as allowing children under 26 to stay on their parents' insurance plans, eliminating the cap on expenses, preventing patients from being rejected for pre-existing conditions, and you would get rid of the Frontier Amendment, which reimburses North Dakota medical facilities?
I do favor repeal, you're exactly right, and replacing it with some of the same things that you just talked about, but there are some fundamental things in the root of Obamacare, not the least of which is the mandate, which free people, understandably, find offensive. That by birth you are required to buy something. There are 18 absolutely job-killing taxes that are attached to it, and there are expenses galore, penalties. I mean, imagine Obamacare requires an employer to either buy health insurance or pay a $2,000 fine per employee unless you maintain fewer than 50 employees and keep them working less than 30 hours a week. Guess what? A whole bunch of employers are doing exactly that. That doesn't help anybody. I want to replace Obamacare with something that doesn't have the mandate, but then includes things like allowing young people, I think, to stay on their parents' plan longer. I think that makes sense. I also think it's quite inexpensive. North Dakota has solutions to some of these very things, Jim, that you're talking about. Things like pre-existing conditions. We already have a pool for that in North Dakota. I think there are a lot of state solutions that can replace some of that. But at the same time, if we don't pull this thing out by the root and start over, we're going to be saddled with this absolute. You talk about certainty. We talked earlier about the importance of certainty. Obamacare has created so much uncertainty that it's enhanced the demise of our economy rather than help grow it.
I just want to ask a follow-up before we get to Pam Gullison. But if your intention is to replace it, what guarantee do you have that the provisions that you like and others like will, in fact, come back in a new bill? Isn't it possible those provisions could be lost in the effort to repeal what you call Obamacare?
First of all, let's take the Frontier Amendment, which is very important because, of course, it's a reimbursement issue, and there are lots of reimbursement issues in Obamacare. That was not even really a tough debate in the United States House of Representatives. The Frontier Amendment, and people will say, well, my gosh, we never had it before. We weren't getting reimbursed properly before. The reality is that was not a real controversial measure. I don't think the Frontier Amendment is that big of a challenge, quite honestly, going forward. With regard to a couple of the other things, we have already seen that they are the popular items. The ones you named are popular for a reason. Those are the things that members of Congress want because those are the things their people want. So there's just as much risk that we won't be able to remove some of the other things, including the taxes that on charitable hospitals, on Cadillac plans, on businesses. There's just as much guarantee that those things won't be fixed if we don't repeal it.
Okay, we got to go to Ms. Gullison here, give her a shot at this.
Well, I mean, if we think we would get the Frontier Amendment back again, we won't. That was a decade-long fight to be able to get that level of reimbursement for North Dakota's hospitals. They had worked with our delegation and never succeeded until they were able to bring it in as part of this overall reform. So the reality of that, there's a lot of things in this bill that we know we need to address. I am concerned about the impacts on business. I am concerned about the potential costs long term and how that's going to a burden placed on them. But there is a lot of good in this bill. And for North Dakota specifically, where we have critical access hospitals, 36 of our hospitals are critical access hospitals, are rural hospitals. Those reimbursement dollars are very, very important to them. And as I travel across the state, and especially out west, where the demands are so high now for medical coverage and for emergency room needs, that reimbursement is becoming more important the other day, or with each and every day. We met with last week the Medical Association, the Hospital Association. They're all very strong supporters of this bill. They recognize that there's some changes that need to be, but the repeal approach is unnecessary. That's just a political approach. What we need to just address now is the reforms. Get to work on making sure that we're correcting those parts of the bills that is more onerous and move forward.
I think, Jim, repeal is unlikely, quite honestly. I still support it and would move for that. But whether it happens or doesn't happen, we do have to fix it. And we have to get to the cost of things. I mean, Obamacare took $716 billion out of Medicare, the Medicare provision that helps pay for supplemental, the Medicare Advantage, for example. And that only drives frankly, the reimbursement down to below Medicaid levels for some. We have a real cost issue and a real reimbursement issue that has to be dealt with.
Okay, last words on this? Anything else?
Listen, there's no question that we need to do a lot more to bring down the cost of health care. We need to focus on wellness, prevention. That's really where we need to be in this country in order to affect all of this, including Medicare.
And I agree with her on that.
Okay, you agree. That's good.
Well, I thought it would be a good way to end it.
Yeah. Well, we're not done, but just for this break. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be back with the candidates right after this. Stay tuned.
Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there. Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there.
And service available in Fargo, Grand Forks, Dickinson, Jamestown, Minot, Billings, and Aberdeen. They are all over the place. Now, they sell the number 1 and number 2 selling forklifts in America. Toyota and Crown forklifts, both made right here in the good old US of A. Toyota has the lowest maintenance cost of any forklift. It's easy to maintain and service, easy and comfortable to use. Now, FM Forklifts carries manual and electric pallet jacks and Ingersoll Rand air compressors as well. Now, here's the thing about FM Forklift. They're not going to forget you once you're out the door. They have on-site service. They have a great parts department. You know what? They're going to be there for you all throughout your needs. Now, they've got salespeople like Larry Weigel, Don Olson, Frankie Klein. They're people who understand your business and what you need to do to survive. So go to their website. Check them out at 701-281-1660, or just check them out online. Look at all that great line of products and service that they provide. fmforklift.com. That's fmforklift.com.
Welcome back to the statewide radio debate between congressional candidates Kevin Cramer and Pam Gullison. We're on KFGO in Fargo, KFYR in Bismarck, KCJB in Minot. My name's Charlie Johnson. I'm moderating this debate, trying to remain moderate as we move forward. My real job is president of the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Fargo-Moorhead. I'd like to thank the stations for inviting me to help out with this. Little housekeeping here. Stations down the line at KFYR and KCJB. This debate's going to go an extra 15 minutes. Candidates have agreed we'll go till 10:15. We've got a couple more breaks to get in between now and then, but we're going to go until 10:15 with this debate. Everyone here agrees. We hope you guys out west are okay with it. Okay, it's time for a question from Paul Juergens. Paul.
Osama bin Laden is gone, and I think that most people thought when that happened that things in Afghanistan would settle down. The president has announced a withdrawal plan. Mitt Romney in the first presidential debate said, "Wait a minute now, let's not tip our hand. Let's not say when we're leaving Afghanistan." And in the months since Osama bin Laden was killed, we've had at least 50 American soldiers killed by Afghan troops who were supposed to be their comrades, standing next to them, ambushed. Should we stick by the schedule that the Obama administration has proposed and announced to withdraw from Afghanistan, or should we just kind of say, well, we'll leave when we think the time is right?
We should start this one with Ms. Gullison, if that's all right with you.
That's
Paul.
fine.
You know, we need to exit Afghanistan. I don't know what more we're going to accomplish there. There is continued turmoil. We understand that, but it's really time for us to hand over their country to Afghanistans to be able to protect and defend. We talked about this earlier, but Americans, our military, our men and women have given so much. Many have given 3 and 4, turns of service here between Iraq and Afghanistan. That's asking a lot, and our country has given a lot. We need to exit. We need to move on. We need to start addressing, obviously, there's just continued turbulence, unrest in the Middle East. And so we need to make sure that we have the resources to address all of these big challenges.
Mr. Cramer, your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I agree with Governor Romney that we ought not be telegraphing our exit strategy from Afghanistan or anywhere else. I've never understood this president's idea that somehow our enemies are really our friends and we should play footsie with them rather than be firm with them. Having said that, I wouldn't oppose leaving Afghanistan earlier than the target that has been set out by the president. I just don't want to telegraph what that target is. But if we've learned anything, we ought to have learned recently that just because bin Laden is gone doesn't mean that trouble is gone. Obviously, the situation in Libya is a stark reminder that the enemies that were once under the rule of Osama bin Laden are still there. They're still active, and they still have the same mission in mind. So we shouldn't blink. We shouldn't take our eye off the ball. But I think Afghanistan's run its course.
Okay, I think we've covered that one okay. Let's go on to Don Haney for our next question. Don?
I don't want to hammer this to death, but we were talking about the defense spending earlier, and I want to redirect something there. I wasn't, and I know the question got a little long there, but both of you talk, and I think everybody agrees tough decisions are going to have to be made to, curtail the deficit spending and bring us back to some form of normalcy there, if that's possible. But where would both of you stand should the BRAC come down and North Dakota bases are involved in that as they were, several years ago? You know that we have to make cuts, but how do you defend, or is it possible to defend keeping those bases as opposed to saving money?
This is back to Mr. Cramer.
Sure. Don, what I would say is, first of all, I'm completely confident in the strategic purpose of both the Minot and Grand Forks air bases. And it's not like North Dakota hasn't given up a little bit in this, in this efficiency of the Department of Defense. I mean, Grand Forks is a very different mission than it once was. In fact, it's changed missions a few times as a result of the strategic needs, defense needs of our country. Certainly, the Fargo National Guard has. I mean, we're all quite familiar with it. We've seen some painful cuts, but I think the way it's positioned today with the missions of the two air bases, especially that I think you're going to see that mission grow. I really don't believe that we're going to see cuts. So let's remember that while the generals are important and the Defense Department's important, the Pentagon's very important to all of this, we are still lay leaders, if you will. Our commander-in-chief is still a civilian, and there are lots of considerations that go into these things beyond just defense considerations. But I don't think North Dakota has to take a back seat in that regard, and I'd much prefer making a strategic argument than an economic argument.
Ms. Gullison?
This is one area that I agree on. I think we came out of the last BRAC round stronger. We did give up some things. We had some changes of missions, but there's no question that we are so well positioned now with our mission on UAS. And the continued mission of Minot, that they're not only defensible, but we are so well positioned, and I think what we would find in another background is that we would probably be strengthened.
And Don, I would say too that, and I'm sure Pam would agree with this, but we are blessed by these communities that are home to these bases. They're the ones that really rally, and then our congressional delegation, our governor, it doesn't matter which party they belong to, what their ideology is. We're all going to. You're not ever going to get anybody running. I don't think running for office in North Dakota is not going to stand shoulder to shoulder.
I don't want to seem real quick. I don't want to seem that I have some inside information, but I've been told the focus from the Defense Department will be not on cutting defense programs, but infrastructure. They say we have too much infrastructure, thereby translating that to bases.
I think there's truth to that, but I don't think you're going to see it here as much domestically. I don't think that that's where you're going to see the changes. I think that we're going to be looking at more of our foreign establishments and installations and looking at that because, again, as I said earlier, our national defense is changing. It's much more based on high intelligence, high technology, and you don't need the extent of installations that we've had in the past.
Just imagine we have pilots in Nevada flying planes over the Middle East. I mean, the world has changed a great deal. Do we need
pilots in Fargo doing that?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
And do you need? But it's so much further. Do you really need the same number of bases in Europe, as an example? I think those are the questions they're going to be.
Okay.
asked.
I think we found some common ground, ladies and gentlemen. And on that note, we're going to take another break. If we could end every segment on common ground, it'd be wonderful.
Are you satisfied with your harvest results? Row Crop Solutions has hybrids and varieties that performed excellent under the dry conditions this growing season. Our test plot results are in, and so are the new products from Channel, Wensman, Garston K, and Hilleshaw. Matching the right seed to your land is important. Let Row Crop Solutions help you do that in 2013 to maximize your yield potential. Give Vic or Claire a call at Row Crop Solutions or visit rowcropsolutions.com.
Corwin Toyota is making room for the new 2013 models with 0% and remaining 2012 inventory. It's the 0% clearance sale at Corwin Toyota with huge savings of up to $4,000 in rebates or 0% in most models including Camry, Highlander, RAV4, Corolla, and Tundra. Save on 2012 inventory. Get up to $4,000 in rebates or 0% at Corwin Toyota. It's the 0% clearance sale on now at Corwin Toyota, where everybody gets a great deal.
Yeehaw!
Fargo.
The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there. Yeehaw! The Bison Stampede is back in town. Come out for real rodeo action. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo is this Friday at 7 p.m. and 2 shows Saturday at 1 and 7. The Bison Stampede will be held at the NDSU Equine Center at the North Dakota Horse Park. Come out and cheer on the NDSU Bison Rodeo teams as they rope and ride against other college rodeo athletes from a 6-state region. Bring the whole family for a good old-fashioned rodeo with bucking bulls and fast horses. And kids under 6 get in free. The 2012 Bison Stampede Rodeo this Friday and Saturday. See you there.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy, babies to the elderly.
If you notice that your child is not keeping up with their peers, don't wait. Early detection and treatment can make all the difference. Call for a free screening today.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. They're there when you need them. Therapy for all ages. Beyond Boundaries Therapy in Fargo. Online at beyondboundaries.us.
When life gives you boundaries, go beyond. Beyond Boundaries Therapy. Fargo Moorhead.
Welcome back to the statewide radio debate between Pam Gullison, the Democrat endorsed for Congress in North Dakota, and Kevin Cramer, the Republican endorsed candidate for Congress in North Dakota. We have another question coming up, but first Paul Juergens wants to give us a little program note. Paul?
Again, this debate will be rebroadcast tomorrow night on KFGO, certainly, and if KFYR in Bismarck and KCJB would like to pick up the rebroadcast, we'll make that possible. Time yet to be determined. And once again, we have made a request to Prairie Public Broadcasting to re-air their U.S. Senate debate that debuted last night. We would like to air that again tomorrow night here on KFGO and perhaps the other stations along the line as well, if they can work that in. I just wanted to make that clear, and we'll announce the times today on KFGO and this afternoon on Energy Matters with Joel Heitkamp.
And I don't know the times, but I know Prairie Public's going to re-air that one, too. So there could be some other chances for people to see that. Okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have one more question, one more break, one more question, then we'll be done. The one more question first goes to Jim Shaw. Jim?
Thank you, Charlie. And this is directed to both of you. I'm not sure who goes
We'll start with Ms. Gullison, then, if that's all right.
The Farm Bill right now is stalled in the House. If and when it comes up, do you favor the version that passed the Senate, the Ryan Plan, which calls for further cuts, or some other version?
I prefer the plan that passed the Senate. I think it's a good, strong bill. It's a responsible bill. It's an accountable bill. It's a 9% budget reduction that's been identified from players in farm organizations and from members. And it upholds the things that we need to make sure that we strengthen, which is crop insurance, disaster aid, and a safety net for the farmers. We need to pass it through the House. We need to make sure that we should have a farm bill right now. There's no reason that we don't have a farm bill. The extreme groups got a hold of that bill, and the House side derailed it. We should have a farm bill. There's parts of the Senate bill that I don't agree with. I don't agree with tying conservation to requirements for crop insurance. That's why we need to get it passed, get it over into conference committee so we can get rid of that. But overall, I think the Senate bill is the way to go. I think everybody agrees that it's a good, strong bill.
Okay, Mr. Cramer.
Well, actually, the House bill already removes conservation compliance as a requirement to participate in the crop insurance program, and it ought to. That's something that hasn't been in the Farm Bill since 1996. And so I frankly, I prefer the House version, and it ought to get to the floor. And I spoke with Leader Cantor last week, and I've talked to Speaker Boehner, and in fact, I'll be seeing him with some farm groups later this week. And they both have assured me they will bring it up in the lame duck. And the reason they didn't bring it to the floor, I think it's very important to understand this, is it wouldn't have passed. So the idea of having a fast farm bill as opposed to one that doesn't pass, is a little bit foreign to me. I think it's very political. And let's not forget, there are two extremes in Congress. One is the extreme right, which doesn't want any farm bill or any type of subsidies. The other is the far left that represents the inner cities. They're liberals that don't like the cuts in the nutrition program that the House version has. The House version asks for $16 billion more in cuts, none of it to the farm part of the program, but all of it adds up to a 2% reduction in the food stamp program, which has grown by 50% in the last 4 years. And the way that they would find those 2% in cuts is simply by requiring people to apply for and qualify for food stamps rather than just get them because they qualify for some other program.
Just to follow up, what is your thought then about the idea of the nutrition cuts that the Liberals are trying to protect? Are you in favor of further cuts to the nutrition program?
I absolutely am, Jim. We have a $16 trillion debt. A 2%, which is a very modest cut, in a program that has grown by 50% in the last 4 years. We now have 45 million people on food stamps, and it's perpetual. We have to make it create more of an incentive for people to work than to not work. We have to create an incentive for people to at least apply for and qualify for food stamps, which is what the House bill does. It has no further cuts to agriculture than the Senate version.
Ms. Gullison, anything on that?
I think there's room for additional cuts there. I don't think it should be a reason to disrupt this bill, and it wasn't. I mean, that wasn't the reason. It was the extreme groups. It was Club for Growth. It was the group who signed the Grover Norquist Pledge, which supports my opponent. And so that's, the votes were there. You ask Colin Peterson, and he tells you that Chairman Lucas and himself had the votes to pass it through the House. And so the reason that we don't have a farm bill now is unfortunate. We need to get it passed through the lame deck before it gets into sequestration, because then we'll be facing some real deep cuts across the board here.
That's going to be a busy lame duck session, and we're going to be busy with a break right here. We'll be back with the final question of our statewide debate after these messages. Stay with us.
Corwin Honda's 2012 clearance event is happening now. 2012 Civics, $2,000 off MSRP. 2012 BXL Pilots, $5,000 off MSRP. 2012 Cross Tours, $6,000 off MSRP. You heard it right. $2,000 off Civics, $5,000 off EXL Pilots, and $6,000 off all Honda Cross Tours. Plus, you get 0.9% financing on Pilots for 48 months and 0.9% on all Civics and Cross Tours for 60 months in stock units only. Corwin Honda, where everybody gets a great deal. 201 40th Street South, Fargo.
NZ Customs is your one-stop shop for all your classic car, street rod, or pickup rebuilds. Now is the time to schedule an appointment for your personal one-on-one consultation. If you're planning to make modifications or repairs and want it done right, this takes time. Now is the time to contact NC Customs. If you want quality products and craftsmanship for your dream, call the professionals at NC Customs. Schedule your appointment and start making your dream vehicle a reality today at nzcustoms.com.
Everyone loves a Lundstrom smile. Lundstrom Family Dentistry.
If you have a missing tooth, Lundstrom Family Dentistry has options for you. You can have a natural-looking permanent restoration that will restore functionality and appearance of your smile, so you can go back to enjoying life with confidence. Dr. Lundstrom is now accepting new patients. If you have a damaged or missing tooth, call 235-3803 or online at fargodentist.net.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. Babies to the elderly.
If you notice that your child is having difficulty focusing, following directions, and or processing information, this could mean that your child needs help.
Beyond Boundaries Therapy. They're there when you need them. Therapy for all ages. Beyond Boundaries Therapy in Fargo. Online at beyondboundaries.us.
When life gives you boundaries, go beyond. Beyond Boundaries Therapy.
Massage Envy Spa. For me, it's healthy, it's affordable. I mean, he always wants
pain relief.
Right. And I want a healthier complexion. And now we can get a customized massage or a healthy skin facial.
At a really good price.
At a great price. And nothing feels better than that.
Customized massages and healthy skin facials, all at the perfect price. Start a healthy routine today with Massage Envy Spa.
In Fargo on 13th Avenue South. Introductory facial, $49. Massage, $39.
You can be part of local news gathering on KFGO as an iPhone mobile reporter. This is Paul Juergens. We now have an app for your smartphone that makes you part of the KFGO news team. If you see news happening, use your smartphone to capture video, pictures, and send them on to KFGO. You'll be credited with any digital files we use for the news. Simply log on to KFGO.com, locate the iPhone mobile reporter app, and download it to your phone. Innovating on how we bring the news to you first. The mighty 790 KFGO.
All right, we're in the home stretch of our statewide radio debate between congressional candidates Kevin Cramer, Republican, and Pam Gullison, Democrat. We're on the KFYR in Bismarck, KCJB in Minot, and KFGO Radio here in Fargo. My name is Charlie Johnson. I'm your moderator. I'm going to go to Paul Juergens to have the next question, but also he has a programming note to add to us. Paul?
We have been given permission by Prairie Public Broadcasting now to rebroadcast their televised debate that first aired last night. It will be on KFGO tomorrow night, time yet to be determined. And this congressional debate will also re-air tomorrow night on 790 KFGO, and the affiliates would have the option of rebroadcasting those as well. I will direct this at Commissioner Cramer. Some months ago, you made the decision to bypass the GOP convention and go right on to the primary after your fellow Public Service Commissioner Brian Koch had spent months and months on the campaign trail. There are some in your party that are still upset by that decision. Can you defend that decision, and do you think long-term this will have a negative effect on you within your own party in North Dakota and across and nationwide?
Well, I can defend it because I did right up front. Paul, one of the things that I did that I think is important to understand, I announced my intention to seek the nomination at the primary before the first delegate was elected. I did it because I want to do it with integrity and dignity and let people know right up front that's what I was going to do. There were 6 Republican candidates seeking this nomination. And by the way, the months and months on the campaign trail, I spent those months and months on the same campaign trail. I went to district conventions. I participated in all of the debates. I did town hall forums around the state. I just ran a different type of a campaign. Here's what I'd say to my party, and I'm proud to carry my party's banner. I'm proud to have sought and received their nomination at the primary. But I brought over 100,000 people that came to vote in this primary. I received more votes in a contested primary than my opponent received in an uncontested primary. That's not so much an indictment on her as it is a statement about the involvement of over 100,000 Republicans in the process. That's how you grow a party. I was chairman of this party 20 years ago when Republicans were in about as bad a shape politically in the state as Democrats are today. In fact, I would argue in worse condition. That should serve both as a word of encouragement to Democrats and a word of concern to Republicans. These things are never for sure. And so I saw the opportunity to grow the party. Was it an advantage for me? Sure, it was an advantage for me, Paul. I took advantage of my electability. I proved my electability in the good old-fashioned way of an election.
We haven't seen any Senator Hoeven standing up for you, Governor Dalrymple standing up for you, at least publicly that I've seen in the television or radio commercials. Are they standing by you? Are they supporting your campaign?
Very much so. They've both of those gentlemen, as well as Congressman Berger, are maxed out donors to my campaigns. Their spouses are, their PACs are. We've been on the stump together. Just yesterday, I was with both Governor Dalrymple and Senator Hoeven at an announcement at the Minn Kota Milton R. Young Station, a clean coal technology event that both of them made both political and policy statements on my behalf. We're all a team, and the vast majority of people have put it behind them and are with me.
Along that same line, I'd direct this to Pam Gullison. You worked for Senator Dorgan for many years, chief of staff eventually. 2 high-profile Democrats, Senator Dorgan, former Senator Dorgan, and outgoing Senator Conrad. They, that I've seen at least, again, have certainly endorsed your candidacy, but do you expect in the waning days of the campaign for them to make appearances in this state, perhaps commercials on your behalf? Should this have been done earlier in the campaign to show support for you among 2 of the most popular Democrats in the history of the state?
Well, Senator Conrad and Senator Dorgan have been incredibly supportive, and they have traveled with us. They've been in the state for a number of events that don't always perhaps make the news, but they've certainly let all of our supporters and within the party know very well, and they will be coming out publicly as well. But, you know, the reality is this comes down to a conversation with us as candidates, with the people of North Dakota. And so I've been traveling all over the state of this North Dakota, visit over 100 communities, have the opportunity to talk about the really important issues, the Farm Bill, Medicare, Social Security, health care, the kind of issues that families talk about when they get together. And so it's been a great conversation. That's how, in the end, it comes down to the people in North Dakota want to know who they're electing for Congress, who that person is, how they're going to represent them. Will they stand up and fight for them in Congress? And they know that about me. And so that's how I think we win this race.
We will. You expect to see more of them in the state in the final weeks?
You will.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to call it quits on that note. We'd like to thank both of our candidates, Kevin Cramer and Pam Gullison, for meeting once again on radio with us here. We know you've had a lot of meetings together, and you're getting to know each other pretty well. So I see a long-term friendship blooming. I think once the race is over, dinner and drinks, whatever. But
I suspect that if you
Yeah.
locked Pam and I up in the room, we could solve a lot of the problems that they're struggling with out in Washington.
Well, yeah, if nobody else was listening, I've kind of always felt that way about politicians.
Yeah,
Thanks to KFGO, KFYR, and KCJB for carrying this debate. My name's Charlie Johnson. Thanks to Jim Shaw, Don Haney, and Paul Juergens for helping out. And we're going to give it back to our network stations. Thanks for tuning in.